Have you ever experienced a night like this? The lights are out. The blanket is warm. Your body lies perfectly still, simulating rest, but inside your skull, a construction site is operating at full capacity with deafening noise. The digital clock on the nightstand strikes 2 a.m. The world outside is asleep, but your brain decides this is the perfect moment, the absolutely critical moment, to rewind and replay a 5-second clip from 10 a.m. this morning. It was a seemingly microscopic event. A coworker walked past your desk, paused for a fraction of a second, and dropped a casual remark. You look a bit different lately, don't you? That was it. There was no harsh tone. There was no furrowed brow. There was no finger pointing. But to you, this wasn't a casual greeting. It was a code that needed deciphering. It was the opening statement of a complex criminal case where you are simultaneously the lead detective, the trembling defendant, and the hanging judge. Different how? Your mind screams in the silence. Does he mean I look older? Is it the dark circles? Do I look tired? Or is it deeper than that? Is the quality of my work slipping and he's dropping a subtle, passive-aggressive hint? Did the boss say something about me in the closed-door meeting yesterday? Are people whispering behind my back? Is this the first sign that I am about to be restructured out of the company? From a harmless, throwaway comment, in just 15 minutes of agonizing mental gymnastics, you have drafted a detailed scenario where you are unemployed, destitute, losing your home, and living alone under a bridge by the age of 50. Your heart rate accelerates. Your stomach knots. You are wide awake, fighting a battle that exists entirely within your own imagination. Welcome to the labyrinthine world of the overthinkers. This is a place where a speck of dust can be seemingly alchemized into a mountain, and where peace of mind is a luxury concept that belongs to other people. This isn't just standard foresight or planning. This is a complex, painful, yet fascinating psychological mechanism of the human brain. It is a state of constant, exhausting hypervigilance. To understand why we torture ourselves with non-existent scenarios, we cannot simply look at our habits. We need to step inside the control room of the mind and dismantle the machinery of anxiety. We often blame ourselves with harsh internal dialogue. Why can't I be carefree like everyone else? Why do I have to overanalyze everything? Why am I so broken? But the truth is, your brain is doing exactly the job it has been programmed to do for millions of years. It is trying to keep you alive. Let's travel back to prehistoric times to understand your hardware. Our ancestors lived in an environment fraught with immediate, lethal danger. A rustle in the bushes could be the wind, but it could also be a saber-toothed tiger. The carefree ancestor thought, it's probably just the wind, relaxed, and eventually got eaten. The overthinking ancestor thought, that is definitely a tiger. I need to run, hide, and sharpen my spear, survived, and passed their anxious genes down to you. You are the descendant of the most anxious, paranoid humans in history. Your brain is equipped with a highly sensitive threat detection system. The problem is what evolutionary psychologists call a mismatch theory. You are running software designed for the Paleolithic jungle in a modern corporate office environment. In the 21st century, there are no saber-toothed tigers, but your ancient brain, specifically the amygdala, doesn't know that. It cannot distinguish between a predator charging at you and an email from the boss with no subject line. It cannot distinguish between being exiled from the tribe, leading to starvation, and receiving a cold comment from a colleague. So when you overthink, you aren't crazy. You are simply suffering from a biological false alarm. Your body is mobilizing resources to fight a beast that isn't there. There is an interesting paradoxical question. If thinking too much causes so much suffering, why is the brain addicted to doing it? Why can't we simply stop? The answer lies in a psychological concept called the illusion of control. To the human brain, uncertainty is the ultimate enemy. Not knowing what will happen is biologically more terrifying than knowing for sure that something bad will happen. In experiments, subjects often prefer receiving a guaranteed mild electric shock over waiting for a potential shock that might never come. The waiting is the torture. When you worry, when you overanalyze, when you imagine every worst-case scenario, a process known as catastrophizing, your brain actually feels safer. It tells itself a comforting lie. If I have already anticipated being fired, then when it happens, I won't be shocked. I am preparing. I am solving the problem. I am protecting myself. Overthinking at its core is a desperate attempt to control the future. It tricks you into believing that ruminating on a problem is the same as acting to solve it. But in reality, you are like a car revving its engine to the red line while its wheels are stuck deep in mud. The engine overheats, the fuel runs dry, the noise is deafening, but the car doesn't move a single millimeter. The feeling of anxiety provides a paradoxical dopamine hit. Every time you identify a potential threat, even one you imagined, your brain rewards you with a tiny sense of satisfaction for being vigilant. And so, you become addicted to seeking out disaster, believing that your worry is the wall keeping the chaos at bay. There is also a close, ironic, and well-documented link between high IQ, vivid imagination, and overthinking. Imagine the brain as a computer. The carefree person possesses a simple, efficient office computer. It processes what is happening right in front of it. The overthinker possesses a quantum supercomputer capable of running millions of simulations per second. When you are intelligent, you have the ability to see connections others miss. You can forecast the distant consequences of a small action. You have a vivid imagination capable of painting scenarios that are terrifyingly detailed. But when this supercomputer has no specific task to solve, it turns its processing power inward to attack its owner. It begins running disaster simulation programs. If I say this sentence, they will interpret it as arrogant, which will lead to distance in the team, which will lead to a bad performance review 3 months from now. People with high emotional intelligence and sensitivity, HSP, are often more attuned to social cues. They read the silences, the micro-expressions, the smirks, and the subtle changes in tone that others ignore. This is a gift for empathy, but a curse for peace of mind. Because you intake so much data, your processor gets overloaded. You try to find meaning in meaningless things. You try to decode someone's silence, obsessing over it for days, when in reality, they are just sleepy. This is the tragedy of the intelligent. You use your superior intellect to construct a sophisticated prison to incarcerate yourself. To understand this deeply, let's look at two specific archetypes of overthinking. Case study 1, the perfectionist professional, the imposter. Sarah is a high-level marketing executive. To the outside world, she is confident, organized, and successful. But inside, she is drowning. She sends an email to a client at 4 p.m. At 4:05 p.m., she realizes she used a slightly informal tone. The spiral begins. Why did I say cheers? That's too casual. They're going to think I'm unprofessional. They spend millions with us. If they think I'm sloppy, they'll pull the account. If I lose this account, the firm will have to lay people off. It will be my fault. She spends the entire evening checking her phone, waiting for a reply, unable to eat dinner. When the client replies the next morning with, "Thanks, Sarah, looks great," the relief is temporary. She immediately finds the next thing to worry about. Diagnosis. Sarah is not worried about the email. She is worried about her own worthiness. Overthinking is her shield against being found out as a fraud. Case study 2, the relationship reader, the mind reader. Mark texts his partner, "I love you." His partner, who is busy at work, replies with a thumbs up emoji. The spiral begins. A thumbs up? That's it? Usually she sends a heart. Is she mad at me? Did I do something wrong at breakfast? Is she losing interest? Is there someone else? I felt her pulling away last week. This is the end. When he gets home, he is cold and defensive, reacting to the breakup that hasn't happened yet. His partner is confused, which causes an actual argument. Diagnosis. Mark is engaging in mind reading, the cognitive distortion where we assume we know what others are thinking and we assume it is negative. His overthinking creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. The engine of overthinking runs on fuel called cognitive distortions, irrational thought patterns that reinforce negative emotions. The most common is catastrophizing, the leap from A to Z. The boss calls you into a meeting, yes, A, and your brain jumps to homelessness, Z. This is preemptive defense. You pay in advance for pain that may never arrive. The Stoic philosopher Seneca said it best. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Another distortion is the spotlight effect. Overthinkers often have a large ego in the sense that they are self-focused. They believe they are the center of the universe and that every action they take is being examined under a microscope. You stumble over a word in a meeting and torment yourself for 3 days, thinking everyone is judging you. But the reality is, no one cares. Your colleagues are busy with the drama in their own heads. You are just a blurry background extra in the movie of someone else's life. Realizing this might make you feel less important, but it is the key to freedom. There is also black and white thinking. If this presentation isn't perfect, it is a total failure. The overthinker leaves no room for the gray area where life actually happens. We often treat overthinking as a purely mental issue, but it is a physical act. You cannot have a stressful thought without a chemical reaction. When you spend hours ruminating, your body remains in a state of low-grade fight or flight. Your body marinates in cortisol, suppressing the immune system, increasing belly fat, and destroying focus. Chronic overthinking reduces the tone of your vagus nerve, which regulates your heartbeat and digestion. This is why overthinkers often suffer from IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, tension headaches, and chronic fatigue. You are exhausted not because you ran a marathon, but because you ran a marathon in your head. The most obvious victim is sleep, leading to the tired but wired state. Your body is exhausted, but your mind is running laps. So how do we turn off this overheating supercomputer? How do we stop thinking and start living? You cannot simply tell the brain to stop thinking. That is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push, the more violently it pops up. The more you try not to think of a pink elephant, the more clearly you see it. Instead, we must use cognitive reframing and somatic disruption. First, name the storyteller. In acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, there is a technique called diffusion. You must separate yourself from your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. When the anxiety strikes, do not say, "I am worried." Say, "I notice that I am having the thought that I might be fired." Give your anxious inner voice a name. Call it the narrator or anti-anxiety. Personifying the voice helps you detach. You realize it is just a stream of information, like a radio playing in the background, not the absolute truth. Second, use the courtroom technique. Put your worry on trial. Do not accept the thought as fact. The prosecution, anxiety, says, "My colleague hates me." The defense attorney, reason, must object. Where is that evidence? Is there concrete proof or just a feeling? Did they explicitly say they hate you? Didn't they invite you to lunch last week? Force the brain to produce hard data instead of vague emotions. Feelings are not facts. Third, play the so what game. Anxiety stops at the scary part. You need to push past it. Follow the fear to its absolute end to see the monster is just a shadow. What if they hate me? Then work will be a bit awkward. What if work is awkward? Then I will focus on my tasks and go home. What if I get fired? Then I will be devastated for a month, and then I will update my resume, and then I will find a new job. I have survived hard things before. I will survive this. When you look the worst case scenario in the eye, you realize you have agency. You are resilient. The catastrophe is manageable. Fourth, remember that action is the antidote. Overthinking breeds in passivity. It thrives in the vacuum of doing nothing. When you lie still, thoughts attack, move, wash the dishes, go for a run, write the email, organize your bookshelf, do anything that belongs to the physical world. When you shift energy from the prefrontal cortex, thinking, to the motor cortex, moving, the loop of thought is broken. Clarity comes from action, not from thought. You cannot think your way out of a thinking problem. You must act your way out. Finally, set a worry appointment. Do not let worry hijack your whole day. Contain it. Tell yourself, "I am allowed to worry about this, but not right now. I will schedule a worry time from 5 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. When an anxious thought arrives at 10 a.m., write it down and tell it, 'Not yet. Your appointment is at 5 p.m. By 5 p.m., you will likely find that the urgency has faded, or you have forgotten why you were worried in the first place. This gives you back control. To my fellow overthinkers, perhaps you will never become a completely carefree person who falls asleep the moment their head hits the pillow. Perhaps your mind will always be a busy place, and that is okay. Your sensitivity, your foresight, your deep empathy, and your ability to see the world in high definition are precious gifts. The world needs deep thinkers like you to predict risks, to understand the pain of others, to create art, and to solve complex problems. The goal is not to erase thinking. The goal is not to lobotomize your creativity. The goal is to ensure that you are the master of your mind, not its slave. The next time you lie awake at 3 a.m. because of a casual comment, take a deep breath. Remember that it is just your ancient, prehistoric brain trying to protect you in a clumsy, outdated way. Smile at it, thank it for the warning, and then gently but firmly say, "Thank you, brain, but there are no tigers here. We are safe. Now let's sleep." You don't need to solve all the world's problems tonight. You just need to sleep, because tomorrow the sun will rise regardless of whether you worry or not. And you, with all your complexity, your spinning gears, and your lovable chaos, still deserve peace.